Okay, so moving on. In the first video, we saw the rubric relating to the introduction and the body sections. We're now going to move on and look at the conclusion. Remember, similar to the report, the conclusion must have three main functions. Firstly, summarizing the main issue, problem. So that's the point there, the thesis statement. So what is the problem? So in this case, the problem was plastic in the ocean. So it can be seen that not only is it a serious problem, but it was a serious problem that is growing significantly every year. We have looked at possible solutions in the collection of plastic, changing people's behaviors in the way that they use plastics, modifying regulations regarding the production of plastic and the single-use plastics. And finally, we looked at the possibility of changing the law. Okay, so the summary should include a reminder, a little bit of what you spoke about in each of the sections, not just, thank you very much, we've spoke about a problem, a solution, and the consequences. Okay, you need to go into a little bit more just to remind the audience what you spoke about. And then a final thought. So this can be connected to your consequence, could be a suggestion, could be something for the future. Often it's if we don't act on this now, it will be. Okay, but something for the reader to go away and think about ultimately. Similar, isn't it, to your report conclusion? Right, okay, now we get more. So really, these relate to structure, 1, 2, and 3. They kind of relate to structure. Now we're getting more into the delivery of the presentation. This is a key point here. Look, reading and memorizing will be significantly penalized. It happens every year. Every year, about 20% of students just stand up and either read or memorize. We will either on a video or in class look at ways, methods to take your presentation, take your report and turn it into keyword notes. Your report is not a script for your presentation. Whether you memorize it or you read it, your report is a report. It's not a script for a presentation. Okay, so remember that. Please pay attention when we look at using notes, making notes from the report. And please do not read. Do not read. Usually the penalization will be heavier for reading. So I will usually just deduct 10 points for reading. If you're reading every word of your report, it could even be more. You will definitely drop below the pass mark for the presentation. So the presentation is worth 30%, isn't it? So you will not pass this part of the presentation, this part of the assessment if you read your presentation. Okay, the penalty will make it go below the 60% pass mark on the presentation part alone. You could still pass the rest and you could still scrape a pass, but the presentation part, if you read, you would fail. Okay, so if you read and memorize, the chances are you will go too fast. So you will also lose points here. Appropriate volume. Oh, sorry, just go back to pace because it is important. Pace, when we give a presentation, you need to go slower. I've never said to somebody, you need to go faster. I always say you need to go slower. We usually go 30% slower in a presentation than if we were having a conversation. You need to give people time to process what you are saying. And that's why pausing is also important. Okay, make sure your partners are doing this as well. It says all speakers. You get the same score, right? If your partner is reading, you need to stop them. If your partner is memorizing every word of the report, you need to stop them because that's going to affect your score. It is a team effort. Okay, if your partner is too quiet, you need to help them to speak up. There is a microphone as well. So if they're really struggling, use the microphone. Hand gestures. We will study this in class, but hand gestures can help make the delivery more interesting. Hand gestures include enthusiasm, emphasis. So this all helps to add layers to the presentation. You would have studied this last year, so we haven't gone into enormous detail, but we will look at it before your final presentation. Hand gestures are important. Try to relax, don't stand rigid, don't stand too close together. Effective interaction between speakers. That's very difficult if you're stood shoulder to shoulder, huddling next to the PC. One of you stand the other side of the whiteboard. Okay, it just makes it more interesting. Eye contact, appropriate movement as well. So don't be afraid to move around. Go forward if there's space in the room. Go to the side. Use the screen, point to information that you're talking about. Talk to each other. Effective interactions. So you can say, okay, thank you when your partner passes to you. Simple. Thank you. Yes, now I'm going to talk about. You can even comment on what they said. Thank you, Yusuke. That was interesting. I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to talk about the next possible solution, which is make sure that you have an equal distribution of speaking. If there are two of you, roughly 50-50. Three of you, roughly 30% each. Fluent delivery, you can refer to your notes, which is fine, but there is a line, isn't there, when it becomes reading. So not too much pausing. There has to be a balance there, not too much pausing, just about right. Make sure you can pronounce key words. Otherwise, people won't understand you. They'll stop listening. So it's very important. Pronunciation of key words isn't just about the sounds, it's about the stress. Where is the stress on a word? A good dictionary, a good electronic dictionary will tell you how to pronounce a word. Practice the pronunciation. Okay. When you use pictures in your slides, refer to them, explain them. Don't just assume that we understand their relevance. Okay, this shows what you can see here is refer to sources. So don't just say 30,000 PET bottles are found in the river. Say, according to the local newspaper, last week, 30,000. According to this research, according to a study done by Oxford University. Say where your information comes from verbally. Don't just show it. Here are references. Okay. explain it verbally. Practice your slides. Don't flick backwards and forwards and get lost. And it's about practice, these presentations. You need to include the slides in your practice, include the time in your practice. Don't take too long, and include the transitions of the slides, whether your partner is changing it for you or you're changing it for yourself. But don't go forward, oh, backwards. Oh, I missed a bit. Forward, backwards, forwards, backwards. To see that animation again and again. It needs to be smooth transitions. And there we go. Gives the impression that it was well prepared and practiced together, right? Not just you on your own. It's very clear when you haven't practiced together. Okay, so that's the general information about the delivery. Next video, we will move on to the next section.